feel you in the wind, I see you in the trees. Everywhere I look, I feel your heartbeat. Majestic mountains high, in every drop of rain. All of this just shows me how much you love me. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your constant care for me. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your endless grace for me. In every drop of dew, the rustling of the leaves, the chirping of the birds, a perfect symphony. Smell of the flowers, the richness of the soil, the sweetness of the fruit that satisfies. I am amazed by the symphony of your creation. I am amazed by your omnipresence. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your endless grace for me. From a firefly to a shooting star, to the song a cricket sings, from the raging seas to the placid lakes, to the bubbling of the stream, from the rays I feel from the rising sun to the stillness of the night. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your constant love for me. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty.
Good morning. I am on screen, but in photos, and I will see you after these photos. Thank you so much for being here. I'm showing a representation of the Philippines in various fora, meetings, and summit and COP talks. And the last one was in Madrid, where Chile was the head of the presidency of COP25. And as we all know, it will be held in Glasgow, but it's been delayed because of the pandemic. But this was the last live face-to-face in Madrid in December of 2019. We can proceed with the other photos. Yes, as you can see, we're not wearing masks. Obviously, that was way before COVID. And you can see me with the Prime Minister of Finland on the right. That was maybe 15 years ago when we were already advocating as women agents of climate change. And I'm glad to have our young women with us today. Also, you can see Mad for Survival. This was in a group of young international climate champions who have aligned with us as climate vulnerable country. Oh, these were photos of way back. As you know, in 2007, I was declared as the Asia Pacific champion for disaster risk reduction. That's Salvano Briceño on the right. He has since retired from the United Nations ISDR, which is now UNDRR, renamed in Geneva. And that's Manny de Guzman, who was working with the WHO, I think, or WMO in Geneva, who's now a commissioner of the Climate Change Commission. That was way back in my second term, I believe in 2007, 8 or 9. So these photos shows that the Philippines and I representing our country has been in the forefront of climate change, adaptation, mitigation, disaster risk reduction, and resilience. Stop the war now. See, we've been advocating for women in politics and governance. This is nothing new today in times of pandemic. We've been doing that, and that's a reason why I researched these photos, to show that this is not a new issue at all. I've been doing it since the 1980s and the 1990s when I became senator, and in 2007 when I became global champion for disaster risk reduction. And so I am so happy that many have taken up the cudgels to embrace women in governance and women in resilience. Of course, you all know that. Patricia Espinosa of the UNFCCC, that's the United Nations Framework for Climate Change, based in Bonn in Germany. And beside me were the two champions also declared by the United Nations to espouse adaptation. And we will talk about that later. Adaptation, mitigation, resilience, and DRR. We proceed now. There. Patricia Espinosa is a good friend, of course, a climate leader. And that was the last face-to-face. At the time, I could hold her hand and we could speak to each other 1 foot away. But there was COVID already, actually. Oh, this is Christiana Espinosa, the former head of the UNFCCC, who visited me in my home after she left the UN. And we worked together and we're in touch occasionally. You will see on the right, for those who watch a lot of, well, cinema, the familiar face on the right is Marion Cotillard, who was a visitor to the Philippines, along with the French president then, Francois Hollande. And that was in Malacanang. Magkadikit ang mga muka kasi walang COVID pa noon. That was the time of President Aquino, when both France, as chair of COP at the time, and the Philippines, a vulnerable country, was visited by the French president, the first ever head of state of France to visit. And he brought Marion Cotillard not as an actress, but as a climate leader in their country. And we both read our commitment to climate change adaptation in the Malacanang grounds. There. I'm glad they have the photo. It looks like COVID times because our podium were 5 feet away. But of course, this was not. This was way back during French President Hollande's visit to the Philippines. Remarkable visit, where he visited Giwan, where the first landfall was in Samar, Eastern Samar. And Marion Cotillard was reading the French version of the climate commitment while I read it in English. Okay, and these are the contact cards of our guests. Yes, why are you putting the contact information? We will contact them later. In the meantime, I should take out my video so that I can be seen live. I hope that my screen is clear now. Very good. And I know that our climate leaders were early. I was monitoring at 9:30. And they were already online. Yes, I'm glad to see. You know, this young woman, this young lady, I knew her. She came to my house, I remember, during the Aquino administration when she was working, not yet in the issue of DRR, but I believe it was on communications. PCOO, if I'm not mistaken, Attorney Leslie Cordero, with many things in common, aside from being a communicator, because you were then with the then secretary of the PCOO, yes, my good friend, yes. And she's also heavily into DRR. In fact, we will learn from her and we will exchange best practices. She in the World Bank scenario and how it can be applied to local governments. I'm also glad, maybe I should put my TOIM at my back as well. I will not say the year, but if you can guess the year, you have a gift of a Lola Maming's Robusta Blend coffee. If you can guess the year, I was TOIM. Of course, I don't have to guess what year Leslie Cordero was TOIM because it was just in 2020. Am I not mistaken, Leslie? So,
you're right.
Would you be able to guess? I will not put you on a spot. Hindi ako magagalit na pinapatanda mo ako. Anong taon ako naging TOIM?
I'm guessing it's 1997.
Aba, a little down, a little down. Okay,
1994.
Yes, my staff will get the exact year. That was before way before I became senator. I was very, very young. I was early 30s. You're dating me. That means kung 97, yes, pwede na rin because TOIM. But okay, let's not be funny here. Okay, I just wanted to lighten up our subject for today because it can be disastrous. It can be heavy, but we will lighten it by explaining what is disaster risk reduction, what is the issue of resilience, what is adaptation as opposed to mitigation, how can a senior disaster risk management expert of the World Bank help LGUs in the boondocks and in coastal communities. Just as a background, Attorney Leslie Cordero, aside from being a TOYM, ano ba yung TOYM? The Outstanding Young Men in the Philippines and Women. O dapat i-change the TOY. I think I suggested that a long time ago. 10 outstanding young persons na lang or humans, di ba? I will write them a letter. Okay. So Leslie is currently leading the implementation of the Philippines' third DRM development policy loan to support the government's response and recovery efforts for recent disasters and COVID-19. I just wanted to always underscore response because under our DRR law, response is just part of the whole gamut and we should not just always focus on response. And I'm sure Leslie will tell us about that. She was an undersecretary, as I said, in the OP before, graduated, very good, magna cum laude from University of San Carlos. She's also a lawyer, of course, and teaching, very good. in AIM, a Master's in Disaster Risk and Crisis Management program. Very good. And one of a TOYM. So we'll get back to you. You're wearing green and I'm wearing blue. So we're complete. Yes, we will have our other young climate leaders. Maybe I'd like you to say a few words, Leslie, before I introduce the other climate leaders.
Good morning, everyone who's watching. Good morning, Senator Lauren. Maayong buntag sa inyong panan sa Visayas.
Maayong buntag. Alam kong Cebuano ka. Yes, San Carlos University, right? Yes, very good. Maayong buntag ka ninyong tanan. Batiin mo. I'm sure sana nag-text ka sa mga kababayan natin sa Cebu, sa Region 7 na manood sa isang climate leader na taga-Bisaya. Nanonood sila. Batiin mo sila.
Maayong buntag sa tanang mga taga Cebu ug taga Surigao because my dad is from Surigao. So
very
everyone
good.
Who's watching, maayong buntag sa inyong tanan.
Very good. At sa mga Antikenyo, mga kinaraya, mayad nga aga kaninyong tanan, durugin kasalamat sa inyong pagpalangga, ka inyong Inday Lauren at sa inyong panunood ng Stories for a Better Normal. Ngayon, we will get back to you, Lara Jean Salaysay, Climate Reality Leader and Project Development Officer. She's very young, 26 years old. My son will hate me for saying this, but it's his birthday today. He turns 28. And my son has built the biggest solar power plant in the island of Luzon. I'm just so proud of him. He will cringe and hate me for mentioning him because he does not like publicity at all. Anyway, I just remembered to mention it because we have someone almost his age. I'm so happy to have Lara Salaysay, all of 26. I'm so happy to have you young ones. So you contribute to the strengthened integration of climate change in basic education as a project development officer at the Department of Education's Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Service. I'm so happy. You know, I did not even realize that there was a dream service, DRR service in the DepEd. I want to discuss this more with you so that lahat ng alam ko mula noong 1990s ay ma-integrate ko sa inyo at matuto din ako sa inyo, sa kabataan, kay Attorney Leslie at kay Lara, sa mga panibagong mga polisiya at programa na maari ko rin gamitin sa aking paggagawa ng mga programa at batas. Ayan. So ikaw rin ay graduate ng Climate Reality Global Training in August of 2020 and Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative Academic Fellowship and Civic Engagement at the Arizona State University and Save the Philippine Seas in 2017. Wow. So you spend your time, it says here, understanding how to maintain sound personal finance and a sustainable lifestyle, listening to podcasts and reading self-help and memoir books. We have many things in common with our guests. I feel so at home. I wish we were by the sea, sitting on the sand, or I wish we were in a forest. Okay, so hi, Lara. Are you in Metro Manila or are you somewhere?
Nasa Metro Manila po.
Pero taga anong probinsya ka, Lara?
Laking Metro Manila din po.
Okay, so good morning to you. And so the DRR service of the DepEd is a long-established service or bago lang yan dahil sa batas natin?
Noong 2011 po ito inaitatag
yes.
Bilang opisina, tapos inelevate po ito bilang isang service noong 2015.
Ay, very good, very good. So I believe that that is born out of our DRR law of 2010. Yes.
Opo,
so,
tama po.
Do you have online programs? Maybe you can share with me later because I will introduce the other guests on what the DRR service of a DepEd actually does. And you are probably the implementer of my law called the Environmental Education Awareness Act, where it's not just DRR, but the whole environment. Okay. Luis Mabulyo, founder of the Cacao Project. Ay, nako, gustong-gusto ko magtanim ng kakao. Kasi ako, lola ko, ay nagtanim ng kape. Ngayon, pwede naman i-compare o ihambing or maybe to plant together ang kape at kakao. At gustong-gusto ko magtanim ng kakao. Basta gusto ko lang magtanim. Tuturuan mo ako, ha? So, alam mo, sa pagpili ng guest, parang talagang inisip yung bawat parte ng Lauren Legarda kasi she's a UNEP Young Champion of the Earth of 2019. Again, ayan, tatanong ko pala, isipan parang kay Leslie. I was a UNEP champion. Anong taon kaya? Ikaw, 2019. It was in Turin, Italy, when I was invited to receive my award as a United Nations Environment Program Champion of the Earth in 2001. Tignan natin kung alam ni Luis Mabulo, anong taon kaya si Inday Lauren gaya mo naging UNEP champion? Pero baka hindi ka pa napanganak nun eh. Anyway, 2001 in Turin, Italy, nabanggit ko na. So, how nice that we have all these similarities in the work we do. Luis Emmanuel Mabulo, wow, isa siya, ay naku, natutuwa ako. Gustong ko kasi magtanim. Enjoy ako magtanim and I grow well, ha? Green thumb. Okay. At hindi ako marunong pa magluto, pero gustong-gusto ko mag-innovate at ginamit yung mga tanim ko. At ito talaga yung grassroots na climate resilience. You grow your own food because I do, and you plan your recipes and what you eat based on your harvests. Hindi ka magpaplano, tas bibili. Diba tama? So she's a chef, a farmer. Nako, imbitahin kita sa aking malit na farm, and an entrepreneur. Founder of Cacao Project, which cultivates resilient and climate-smart livelihoods in Camarines Sur. I was just on radio a few minutes ago in Albay in the radio station. Achiever at a young age. She's a National Geographic young explorer. You know, also, we were discussing just an hour ago, we're producing a documentary, a marine biodiversity documentary for National Geographic on the the waters of Antique, because North Antique is a legislated protected area under the INIPAS law, which I authored and sponsored in the Senate, that the Northwest Panay Peninsula, and I have a proposed bill declaring the marine landscape as a protected area. So there's so much we can, and you know, manta rays, which are found only in Tubataha, dalawa nahanap sa Antique. Okay, we'll talk to Luis. She was a featured honoree for the Forbes Asia's List 30 Under 30. Nako, magagalit naman anak ko sa akin, babanggitin ko. My son was also there in the Forbes List 30 Under 30. A young champion of the earth under the UNEP program, Outstanding Young Farmer of the Year in 2018. It doesn't say your age here. How old are you? 22. Wow! 22. Nakakatuwa. Aba. And Luis is a host of the show Simply Sarap. Wow, gusto ko yan ah. Cultural diplomacy. Alam mo, ang ganda talaga ng pagpili ng guests. DRR expert, climate champions, resilience who are actually practicing what they preach, and you advance climate action on the ground. So, say hello, Luis.
Tos maray na aldaw sa inyo po, Deputy Speaker.
Maray na aldaw na saan ka, Luis?
I'm in Camarines Sur po.
Very good. Nakakatuwa. Pwede kayang lobas ikaw sa mga halaman mong kakao?
Oh, I hope to po. They're quite...
Kung merong internet, sige. Marhay na aldaw sa Indogabos, maayong buntag, kaninyong tanan, magandang umaga, maayong mayad nga aga. Okay, good morning. I will get to all of you. We start with Attorney Leslie Cordero. Okay, Leslie, from the time that you were in communications, and of course you're a lawyer, how did you find yourself interested in disaster risk reduction? And tell us about the work you do with the World Bank as a senior disaster risk management expert. And what is it that you know that we still don't know, that are not included in our laws, policies, and programs that we can apply not just nationally, but for every local government to follow, so that we would reduce disaster risk and invest more in DRR, CCAM, so that we would be less vulnerable? Sorry, ang daming tanong, all in one question. So we have Attorney Leslie Cordero.
Thank you very much, Senator Lauren. I remembered we met each other when we were, I think I was in the PCOO with Sec Sonny Coloma. But I was drafted. It was more of a call of duty because back in 2012, I was asked by Secretary Almendras, who was at the Office of the Cabinet Secretary, to help him and be his deputy cabinet secretary. And at that time, there was Typhoon Pablo. Remember, ma'am, in 1984, Typhoon Pablo back in 2012 became the strongest typhoon that hit Mindanao. And it was a big challenge because Mindanao is usually not affected by this scale and impact of a disaster. So it leveled off several barangays in Compostela Valley and Davao Oriental. And then slowly, when Typhoon Yolanda made landfall in November 8 of 2013, and Senator Lacson was appointed as the Rehabilitation and Recovery Czar, I was asked to be his undersecretary and help the government in preparing the Yolanda Rehabilitation and Recovery Plan. And during this time, imagine mobilizing and coordinating with more than 30 government agencies. And what made the difference was that there were 14 provinces, 171 cities and municipalities across 6 regions that were affected by Typhoon Yolanda. So having to coordinate private sector, academe, civil society organizations, the affected communities and local government, it was a big challenge. And here you can see in the next slide that there were several consultations and meetings that were conducted. And the challenge here was, how do you go and visit every province, every municipality and city to consult and hear what their needs are, what their challenges are, and try as fast as we can to be able to fix this. And at that time, they dubbed me as a disaster queen, simply because almost every day there were meetings with various clusters. And in fact, we were meeting with a team of Lara in DepEd because you know how many schools are damaged every time there is a major typhoon or an earthquake. And there were a lot of interviews, and it helped a lot that I had a good training in PCOO because it was also the knowledge that we need to communicate better. We need to speak in a language that is understood by the affected as well as the local government units so they can participate and they can help and contribute in the rehabilitation and recovery efforts. So you're asking, how was my journey, right? From the government to the World Bank, what am I doing now? And here you can see, ma'am, that in government, we were representing the Philippine government at the regional and global arena. And the bottom photos would show that during the negotiations in Sendai, Japan, for the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction of 2015 to 2030, Deputy Speaker Lauren, then Senator, was the one leading the delegation, delivering the message of the Philippines. And every night until 12 midnight, she was there trying to listen as well as lead the discussions. And the Philippines was in the limelight because Haiyan was the strongest typhoon that made landfall by far. And everyone was watching, everyone was witnessing how the Philippines has responded as well as how we tried to recover from this category 5 of a disaster. And the next slide would show you that this whole experience allowed me to prepare and transition from government to the World Bank. But in terms of advocacy, in terms of what we are doing, it's a quick shift because what we are trained to do in government, the whole coordination, prioritizing the policies, you can see here that in dealing and discussing with some of the dignitaries and leaders of the United Nations and the ASEAN, it was also showing and showcasing what the government has already done and what are the gains that were already achieved from the 2009 Climate Change Act to the 2010 National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act. And all these 2 landmark legislation were sponsored and championed by Senator Lauren. How was it? How difficult was it to transition. I remembered I left government back in May 2015 and joined the World Bank in June of 2015. And normally, when you're a new staff at the World Bank, you don't get deployed or asked to go to other countries. But here, I think 6 months into the job, I got a phone call asking that I be deployed to Myanmar to help in their post-floods and landslides needs assessment and to help them develop a recovery framework, because the Myanmar government wanted to know how the Philippine government did the Typhoon Yolanda rehabilitation and recovery efforts. Then I realized that all those sleepless nights, all those meetings, and trying to make the rehabilitation and recovery plan for Yolanda paid in terms of efforts, because it allowed me to also help and share our experiences, the challenges, as well as the lessons learned from Typhoon Haiyan to the government of Myanmar, as well as the government of Fiji when they were dealing with Tropical Cyclone Winston back in 2016. But how challenging was it? I found myself in a room full of men, and it was very difficult because knowing their culture, understanding and helping them, it allowed me to also understand how best to send my message across. And my understanding is that even if you find yourself in a room of 20 old men making the decisions, when they know technical expertise and they know experience, hard grit experience from previous disasters, they will try to listen and absorb whatever information you are sharing. So what are we doing now at the World Bank? The World Bank engagement is also doing a policy shift similar to what the government is doing. Before, we were too focused on disaster response, but now there's a shift from disaster response to risk reduction in a more proactive position to risk management. We're talking about physical resilience, financial resilience, as well as social resilience. Ito yung mga early warning systems and making sure na yung climate resilience and disaster risk reduction will be a core consideration in planning as well as investments programming para sa mga key sectors natin. And then, of course, we are also helping government in disaster preparedness, making and developing this Ready to Rebuild program so that there will be a green and resilient recovery from disasters. And then we also looked at the Safer Schools program, because we all know that when there's a major earthquake or a typhoon, then our schools usually suffer the brunt as well as our students. And then, of course, Senator Legarda is very familiar with this, resilience for cultural heritage assets. This was done back in 2013, 2014, when Bohol experienced a 7.2 magnitude earthquake, and we saw cultural heritage assets crumble. So what the Department of Tourism did was to ask the World Bank, how can we develop a tool so that we will help strengthen these assets even before the next earthquake or typhoon hits? And then, of course, financial resilience. The government has adopted a disaster risk financing and insurance strategy back in 2015. And now they are slowly developing and implementing some of these financial instruments like the CAT bonds, itong contingent credit facility na tinatawag nating CAT-BDO. So ito yung instrument na nandyan siya for 3 years. Kung may major disaster, may option yung gobyerno na mag-draw from this instrument. And then ang insurance para sa mga local government units. Ito yung 25 most vulnerable provinces sa Eastern Seaboard, para hindi sila maghihintay kung gaano katagal ilabas yung pondo from the NDRIM Fund or the national government. Because when something happens and the trigger or condition is met, yung pera mapupunta sa local government. And then insurance also para sa mga roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, tsaka yung mga critical infrastructure natin. And then, of course, highlighting social resilience, yung development of the Emergency Cash Transfer Program with the DSWD. Kasi ginagalingan natin yung CCT or 4Ps or yung conditional cash transfer. Meron din tayong social amelioration program para sa pandemya. Pero yung kulang is pag may major disaster and wala ka dun sa listahan ng mga beneficiaries, pwede ka ba maka-avail kung biktima ka ng disaster? Here, the DSWD has already developed this emergency cash transfer program for implementation. And then of course, yung mga socio-economic resilience tool, para naman ma-measure natin hindi lang yung impact sa damage sa hard infrastructure, but also impact to social welfare as well as well-being. This slide would show you, tinatanong ni Deputy Speaker Lauren, paano ba natin matutulungan yung mga local governments tsaka yung mga communities, diba? Hindi lang tayo puro salita dito sa national government, ganyan. So, the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council as well as the Office of Civil Defense, together with the local government academy as well as the World Bank, developed a Ready to Rebuild, We Recover as One program. Ito po yung changing mindsets and helping build that culture of preparedness na lahat ng mga templates, lahat ng mga frameworks, ginawa na natin into a workbook. And ang goal is to train as many local government units to prepare a recovery plan even before a disaster happens. Kasi madaming components sa recovery plan yung pwede nang gawin kahit wala pang disaster. And we're looking at the first pioneer 100 local government units, around 500 technical staff, including the mayors and governors kung interesado sila. And of course, yung national government natin. In doing this Ready to Rebuild plan and rolling it out to train more people, ginagamit po natin yung GeoRisk Philippines. Etong next slide would show you, nakaka-proud to, kasi yung Department of Science and Technology has already developed a platform, an integrated database para meron ng mga multi-hazard maps na maa-access ng mga tao. Itong slide na to ay merong mga components, di ba? Next slide would show you Hazard Hunter, GeoMapper, GeoAnalytics, as well as maps and other features. And hindi po to gawa ng development partner. Ito po ay galing sa Department of Science and Technology. And in training the local governments, we will use this platform. And si Yusek Rene Solidum of DOST and yung team niya will be there to help train the local governments kung paano to gagamitin, paano maa-access, and hindi lang to para sa mga tao sa gobyerno. Pwede din to sa academia, sa civil society, as well as private sector, and the students who want to understand more about the risk dito sa mga areas nila and to prepare better. And then, etong other project na ginagawa natin for COVID, we are helping the Department of Interior and Local Government develop a COVID-19 recovery framework. Itong next slide would show you na yung challenge ng mga local governments right now is paano mo i-address yung COVID response. And then may directive na kailangan mong gumawa ng recovery plan. How do you restart your economies, diba? And then how do you bring into this framework yung vaccination program? And then kung may sudden spike, paano mo i-incorporate yun as you slowly reopen your respective LGUs as well as the economy. So here, malapit na itong matapos and ilo-launch na to ng DILG. And I'm sure most of the local government chief executives are also looking out for this one. And I think this one is more on pagod vibes. Senator Lauren, I'm sure you're championing a lot of sustainable, inclusive, and resilient destinations, diba? I'm sure Antique has a lot of good beaches. So what we are thinking here is that after what happened to Boracay, the World Bank, Department of Tourism, and TIEZA has decided na it is crucial to have a more integrated approach in developing tourism destinations. So the World Bank is supporting the Philippine government in doing the Sustainable, Inclusive, and Resilient Tourism Project. It is a partnership with DOT, TIEZA, and the local governments. Here we are looking at Bohol, Siargao, and Siquijor. And it is a platform for integrated approach and collaboration because yung ADB din, meron din silang project sa El Nido naman and Coron. And then what we are doing is also benchmarking on global good practices and the global experience. How did the other countries do this? Thailand, Mexico, as well as Indonesia, Singapore. So these are the components that we are looking at in the project. So we have upgrading of local infrastructure, promoting tourism development, and then highlighting the need for strengthening DRM and crisis management. Kasi naalala natin na itong Bohol, itong Siargao, palaging tinatamaan ng bagyo tsaka earthquake. And now that there is a pandemic, how do you establish this health and safety protocols and restore the confidence of tourists as well as the local communities? And then supporting policy and project management. Knowing na ang tourism is one of the key drivers of economic recovery. So we need to prepare our destinations for the reopening. So I'll stop there, Senator Lauren.
This is so interesting. First, I will start from the last. Resilient infrastructure for tourism so that our economy can bounce back. In the middle, you mentioned also about DRR and resilience for LGUs. Yes, I was in Comval. I can't remember now. I hope they can find a photo of that barangay. I remember where yung barangay captain linikas ang mga tao sa isang barangay hall. Yung barangay hall na yon nasa purple sa mapa dahil ang mga LGUs ay walang knowledge or wala silang mapa kung saan yung hindi dapat paglagyan ng struktura. Kaya mula noon 2012, I think, nung panahon ng magkasunod yun, Pablo sa Mindanao at saka Sendong din, ay in-advocate ko bilang pangalawang terminong senador na magkaroon ng hazard, risk, vulnerability mapping, soft at hard copy ang bawat lokal na pamahalaan. So, una, sa turismo, para umangat ang ekonomiya, at pangalawa, ang kaalaman ng ating mga lokal na pamahalaan sa kanilang mga risk at vulnerability at bago magtayo ng struktura, multipurpose hall, DepEd school building, barangay health station, dapat alam yan. Imbis sa mga mukha naming mga politiko, ang nasa mga barangay hall, kailangan may tarpaulin na mga mapa. Pero ideally, soft copy. Pero pag soft copy, kung walang internet, kamukha sa amin, hindi naman yung 590 barangays may internet, so may hard copy pa rin, paminsan-minsan. Ayan. Can you stress on that, Attorney Leslie? And gusto ko mag-collaborate tayo para sa LGU, para tong binabanggit natin, first, as a UN Global Champion, pangalawa, as a World Bank Senior Disaster Risk Expert. Both of us, we know how to communicate in the national, global, and importante sa lokal. Ako, Kinaraya, ikaw Bisaya, yung iba sa Bicolano, sa Ilocano, we can translate it in our languages and dialects along with the Wikang Filipino Commission, KWF, para mapatupad because it is ignorance that kills. Okay? I've said too much. Tell us first, yung sa mga mapa, paano maiintindihan ng isang kapitan sa liblib na lugar ang kanyang mga risk at vulnerability at hazards? Una, paliwanag mo yung tatlong definition na maiintindihan nila. Hazard, risk, at vulnerability. Or wag na natin definition of terms, pinapahirapan pa natin ang buhay. Sige, paano na lang nila maiintindihan, paano nila malalaman, kamukha sa amin, umulan, nag-landslide, gumuho ang bundok. O, yung nakatira sa paan ng bundok, hindi nalisan dahil hindi naman nakakaabot ang impormasyon lahat sa duktok. Yon. How do we operationalize all these beautiful concepts, all the great work we all do collectively, all these art cards you prepared? Paano? You can even say it in Cebuano, in Bisaya. Ayan. Tell me, paano natin i-cascade sa LGU hanggang sa barangay Purok Sitio? Yun.
Yeah. Tama ka, Senator Lauren. And I think ni-legislate mo na to eh. And aside from legislating, you went the extra mile, di ba? Naalala ko, gumawa ka ng mga handbook that is easy to understand. And I think etong mga hazard maps natin, slowly ginagawa ni DOST. So the key here is to partner with DOST para ibaba natin sila sa level ng purok, barangay, and yung mga community-based associations, matatap din natin, pati yung mga students. And kailangan din natin isama yung mga schools and universities, di ba? As multiplier effect. I-train natin yung mga teachers to help out in doing and cascading this training. But tama ka rin na ang key dito is yung mga mapa natin and turuan natin sila kung paano gamitin. And very basic, si Yusek Rene Solido has a very good way of translating this in a language na simple, understandable, di ba ma'am? So kailangan natin tong gawin. And what we are trying to do is pilot this in training our LGUs. So gagamitin natin, aside from the hard copies, etong mga online platform. Kasi accessible din siya ma'am sa mga cellphones. Hindi na lang kailangan na computer as long as may wifi ka.
Yun nga.
Meron
yung Geo, kanina, I couldn't keep up with your, yung Geo Hunter, Geo Map. Ano yun? Oo.
Ang GeoRisk Philippines, ito yung platform na dinevelop ng DOST. Tapos meron siyang mga tools or application. Ang tawag niya ay Hazard Hunter. So itatype mo yung address mo dito sa Manila or dun sa Antique, tapos lalabas kung ano yung mga hazards na nasa paligid mo. Baha, bagyo.
Okay, pwede mong gawin ngayon din, ilagay mo ako, Barangay Magaba, Pandan Antique. Lalabas ba yan sa telepono mo ngayon? Totoo?
Nasa LTE lang ako, ma'am. Pero tatawagin ko si yung Secretary. Pwede nating i-explain sa kanya.
Gagawa tayo. Sige, gagawa tayo ng isa pang special na webinar. Focus lang on ito. Kasama si Yusek Rene para meron tayong scientific expert, ikaw abogado, ako naman yung lawmaker. Tapos sama natin yung liga ng municipality at liga ng syudad at liga ng barangay para maintindihan. Yan. Sana, check na niya. Barangay Magaba, Pandan Antique. Anong hazard ko? Ayan. Baka, pero maganda cove kami dun eh. Anyway, continue. So,
paglabas ma'am sa mga hazards, meron na ding lalabas na mga mitigation efforts. So, as a person, you will know or your family will know kung ano yung dapat niyong gawin. How do you prepare when something like this happens?
So dinevelop to ng DOST, ilagay mo lang yung address mo, ay lalabas yung hazard. Sa panahon ngayon, sikat ang araw, wala ngayong hazard. Pero siguro bandang pag malakas ang ulan, baka gumuho ang bundok, malambot na yung lupa. Ayan, so ang dapat lumikas ka na ngayon. Ganon. Bakit hindi yan ginamit sa panahon ng Ulysses? Nangyari tuloy yung sa Region 2, sa Cagayan at Isabela.
Slowly nila ngayon ini-integrate and alam naman natin na kailangan, di ba, mag-usap-usap yung mga ahensya as well as yung local government. So the key here now is to make sure na ma-introduce itong platform na to.
Bago lang itong platform ng DOST ito.
I think 2019, ma'am. And minandate ni Presidente lahat ng mga ahensya at GOCCs and GFIs na gamitin ito. And
parang hindi pa siya na-roll out eh. Dapat kasama yan sa vaccine rollout eh. Okay. Okay. You also mentioned about COVID recovery. Paano natin mako-connect ang disaster risk reduction, ang ating paghahanda sa mga extreme weather events? O simplihan ko na, ang ating paghahanda sa tag-init at sa tag-ulan, sa baha at sa init ng panahon. Ayan. So paano natin, anong connection yan sa COVID-19 recovery? Paano magagamit ang konsepto?
Ang COVID-19 recovery, ang recovery framework na binubuo natin together with ILG, ang pinaka-main concept nito is galing sa DRM and climate resilience because diba, government, both national and local, alam nila mostly yung disaster risk management and climate because of the two legislations that you have passed, diba? So ngayon na merong COVID, ang ginawa natin is kinostomize natin. Ano ba yung mga applicable na frameworks? Ano ba yung mga programs, projects, and activities? Ano yung mga pondo na available na pwedeng magamit from the DRM to the pandemic? And of course, you also pass yung Bayanihan Laws 1 and 2,
Yes.
di ba? So these are all complementary na mga legislation. Pero ang crucial, ma'am, is yung mindset na with COVID, di ba, mas mahihirapan tayo. Hindi na lang siya yung standard natin na response, recovery, and rehabilitation. Kasi kailangan nating intindihin paano yung social distancing, paano yung mga health and safety protocols. And we all know na hindi naman aalis yung COVID in the next 2 years, di ba? So kailangan siya i-factor in. Ito yung tinatawag natin, ma'am, na compound risk. So paano pag may COVID, tapos may El Nino, di ba? And then you will have the drought as well as the food shortage.
So
How
very
do you
good.
manage the slow
Very
onset disasters?
Ang ibig mong sabihin ay ang COVID recovery ay dapat akma sa climate crisis recovery as well. I've always said that dapat sabayan. Hindi pwedeng one or the other. We cannot go back to the old norm. It should be not just the new norm, but the better normal. So ang
I
sustainable
totally agree.
recovery ng COVID ay attuned sa climate recovery. Ang galing,
Yes.
very good. So anong manganganak itong ating parte mo? Kasi we have 2 other guests who are equally interesting. We can do a special webinar with USEC Solidum at i-cascade natin ang iyong expertise at kaalaman sa World Bank para sa LGUs para din maintindihan nila. Last, before we proceed to the other guests, you talked about Bohol, Siquijor, Siargao. There are many other tourist sites, including, let's say, my own province in Pandan, which is just across Boracay. We have every LGU is so beautiful. Paano natin gagawin resilient ang pag-recover sa ating ekonomiya sa mga tourism sites?
Yeah. Kailangan natin tingnan.
Dapat gawin, oo.
Yeah. Meron tayong mga standards already, di ba, sa disaster as well as climate resilience. Resilience sa floods, sa earthquakes. Yan, dapat nakakahon na yan. Ang crucial, paano natin ma-integrate yung hygiene preparedness, yung preparedness for pandemic. And then also, kailangan natin i-prepare yung pagplano ng mga Bohol, Siargao, Siquijor, and other destinations and other LGUs so that mas mabilis maka-bounce back kung merong bagyo or merong lindol or merong other disasters. Naalala mo, ma'am, yung Bohol, yung 7.2 magnitude earthquake in 2013, October, na-realize ko doon na ang pinaka-challenge ng governor doon is how do you reopen, di ba, tourism destinations kung wala pang ilaw, di ba? Because hindi pa na-set up or yung na-electrify yung mga affected areas. And yung hiningi niya is tulungan niyo kami para mapabilis to so that we can recover on our own. Hindi na kami maghihintay sa national government.
Very
So
good.
how do you help LGUs do that in a destination?
Yes.
So that
And I'm glad you mentioned about cultural heritage assets dahil yun ay gaya ng ating katawan at sarili at komunidad, kailangan din pangalagaan ang ating mga cultural, yung mga tangible heritage assets sa panahon ng krisis. So we thank you. I wish I had more time with you, but we are connected anyway and we will continue to do this. Tignan natin naman kung paano isang 26 years old na nagtatrabaho sa DepEd, ayan, isama natin si Lara sa ating mga susunod na webinar para ang dream service ng DepEd na siyang nagpapatupad, nakakatuwa kayo ng aking batas on environmental education awareness, paano nyo ginagawa yan? Okay, Lara, it's your turn. Thank you.
Yes po. Okay po. Magandang umaga po ulit sa lahat, lalo na po sa ating mga teachers at sa mga kabataan.
We are with DepEd now. I hope that DepEd is our partner, our teachers and principals. Ayan, ang magaling yung si Lara. Okay.
Okay po. So, ang office po namin, ang Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Service, ito po yung focal at coordinative unit for disaster risk reduction and management, climate change adaptation and mitigation, and education in emergencies, especially in times of armed conflict. So, dito po papasok yung mga programa ng DepEd patungkol doon sa tatlong areas na pong iyon. Sa presentation ko po ngayon, hindi po ako masyadong mag-dwell sa disaster preparedness and response ng DepEd, pero more on po doon sa thematic area ng prevention and mitigation patungkol po sa impact ng climate change. So sa next slide ko po, makikita po natin may mga larawan. At gusto ko pong imbitahan yung mga tagapanood natin na mag-comment po tayo sa ating chat box kung ano po yung napapansin niyo sa larawan. Ano po kaya yung common sa ating larawan? Yan. May green po ba? Ayan po ba ang common sa ating larawan? May blue? O may babae? At syempre meron ding lalaki. So para po sa mga naglagay na puro learners o puro bata at mag-aaral ang nakafocus sa ating mga larawan, tama po kayo. Dahil ang programa po natin sa Climate Change Education ay para sa ating mga learners. Kumbaga, ito po ay child-centered. Gusto po natin na sila yung bida, sila yung mga nagsasalita, at sila din yung nag-act para sa climate change adaptation and mitigation. Sabi nga ng isa nating learner na si Faith mula sa Santiago City, there comes a corresponding crucial role to act, take up space, and lead my fellow students in advocating for the environment. Dahil naniniwala po tayo na sa climate change, patungkol sa climate crisis, ay lahat po tayo pag-asa. At lalong-lalo na po, ang kabataan ay isang pag-asa. At sa DepEd, tinutulungan po natin sila na i-unlock yung kanilang potential bilang isang kabataan upang solusyonan o mag-adapt at mitigate sa climate change. So ngayon po, tignan po natin ano nga po ba yung naging muka ng climate change education sa gitna ng pandemic. So noon po, nagkaroon po tayo ng distance education, pinatupad po natin yung most essential learning competencies. At bagamat binawasan yung competencies po natin mula sa curriculum guide, ay nananatili pa rin po yung mga competencies patungkol sa climate change. So hindi po nawala yan, lalo na po sa mga subjects ng science, health, araling panglipunan, at edukasyon sa pagpapakatao. Gayun din naman po dahil sa creativity ng ating mga guro, ay naisasama din po ang usapin ng climate change sa iba pang mga subjects. So halimbawa po sa math, ang kanilang competency po talaga ay fractions, pero ang problem set nila ay patungkol sa climate change. O kaya sa English na kung saan ang text ay patungkol sa climate change. So ganun po, ini-integrate, naka-integrate na po ang climate change sa K-12 curriculum. At kahit na nag-MELCS po tayo, ay hindi po ito natanggal sa essential learning competencies. Bukod po sa mga tinuturo sa classroom, na-engage din po natin ang mga kabataan sa pamamagitan ng co-curricular activities. So dati po, meron po tayong gulayan sa paaralan. So kasama po ito sa National Greening Program ng pamahalaan. Paano natin ito kinonvert patungkol sa distance education? So imbes na gulayan sa paaralan, syempre gulayan sa bahay o sa bakuran ng mga mag-aaral. So meron po tayong mga larawan po dito ng 6 na mga bata at yung sa kanan po ay sample basic composting at home na ginawa nilang part ng kanilang subject. Siyempre po, kasali din po ang Youth Climate Strike. So noong 2019, nung nagkaroon ng unang Global Youth Climate Strike, sinuportahan po natin ito. At ngayong noong 2020 ay patuloy pa rin po natin itong sinuportahan at in-encourage ang ating mga kabataan na gamitin yung mga hashtags para ipakita sa ibang mga tao kung ano yung mga saloobin nila patungkol sa nagbabagong klima. Gayon din naman, naniniwala po tayo na madaming talento ang ating mga kabataan. So bukod sa classroom, ay nais natin gamitin nila yung mga skills and talents nila para iparating yung mga mensahe na nais nila patungkol sa climate change para i-urge yung mga nasa community o government man na aksyonan itong ating crisis. So dahil po dyan, noong 2019, nagkaroon po kami ng Climate Change Advocacy Show na kung saan yung mga play po natin ito ay gawa ng mga bata. So sila po yung nag-perform, sila din po yung gumawa. Ginaid lang po sila ng ating mga directors at artists mula sa Cultural Center of the Philippines. At noong 2020, dapat i-restage po natin ito. Kaya lang, nagkaroon ng pandemic. Okay? Kaya ang ginawa po namin, ni-live stream po namin yung performance nila noong 2019 at nagkaroon ng talkback kasama yung mga performers at directors sa pamamagitan ng online na pagpapakita po nito. Bukod po sa performing arts na talent ng mga bata, may mga bata din po tayong mahilig at magaling magsulat. Kung kaya't meron din po tayong programa para sa mga campus journalists. So last year po, pinilot po natin kasama ang Association of Young Environmental Journalists ang The Green Beat Initiative, isang online environmental journalism training para sa ating mga campus journalists. Ito po ay pinilot pa lang po natin at hopefully by this year at next year ay i-roll out po natin sa mas madaming paaralan at divisions pa po. At syempre, di mawawala ang taunang National Climate Change Conference. Actually, noong 2019, ang ating keynote speaker ay si Deputy Speaker Legarda. Pero nitong 2020, ay ginawa po natin itong online at ang naging focus natin bukod sa innovation sa mga bata ay patungkol sa youth eco-anxiety. So, paano itatransform yung nararamdaman na pagkabalisa ng mga kabataan tungkol sa climate change into a climate action kasi naging matindi din po yung usapan patungkol sa mental health. At may mga literatures po na nagsasabi na naapektuhan ng climate change ang ating mental health. So ito po yung naging topic namin noong National Climate Change Conference at meron po kami speaker mula sa ibang bansa para magsalita po ukol dito. At syempre, bida pa rin ang kabataan dito sa National Climate Change Conference. So iba-iba yung mga naging role ng ating mga kabataan. Sila yung mga resource persons, panelists, hosts, reactors, press team writers, at quiz show contestants. So ito po ay kauna-unahang ginawa ng DepEd na kung saan yung mga bata, sila po mismo yung nagsulat ng aming press releases sa bawat learning sessions na ginawa namin sa conference. So makikita nyo po sa DepEd website yung mga sinulat na press releases ng ating mga press team writers. So ito po yung mga graduates ng ating Green Beat Initiative. So makikita po natin na kapag binigyan natin ng pagkakataon yung mga kabataan, kaya nila na sila na mismo yung magsalita at gumawa para sa climate change adaptation and mitigation. Sabi nga po ni Divine, isa sa ating mga campus journalists, na I must let others know that nothing will happen in the comfort of denial and silence. So the time to act is now. Ito po ang ating ipinararating ng ating campus journalist na si Divine. At syempre, para tulungan po yung ating mga mag-aaral, meron din po tayong programa para sa ating mga guro. So last year po, sinimulan po namin yung Climate Science Masterclass for secondary teachers. So ito po ay webinar, kasama po natin ang Climate Change Commission, yung kanilang National Panel of Technical Arts Experts para magbigay ng webinar sa mga guro. So ito po ay kumbaga patikim pa lamang at ginagawa po namin this year yung pilot po para sa mas relevant at mas madaling maintindihan na training para sa ating mga teachers. Dahil syempre, sila po ang muka ng edukasyon sa ating mga kabataan kaya kailangan mas paigtingin yung kanilang competence sa climate change education. At para tulungan po ang ating mga guro, ay gumawa din po kami ng isang microsite on curated resources for teaching climate change. Sa microsite pong ito, makikita nila yung mga programa ng DepEd patungkol sa climate change at gayon din naman ay mga additional activities, mga examples po ng classroom activities or interactive online activities na pwede nilang ipagawa sa mga bata at ilan pang mga babasahin at online courses para mas mapaigting yung kanilang knowledge and skills sa pagtuturo ng climate change education. Sa huli, lahat ng po ito ginagawa natin para sa bata, para sa core value po natin, di ba, na makakalikasan. At kapag makakalikasan ka, papasok na rin dyan yung pagiging makatao, makabansa, at makajos. Sabi nga po ni Joshua, yung climate strike, ito po ay manifestation na yung edukasyon ay nakatimo kumbaga sa kanilang mga puso. At dahil dun sa education na natanggap nila sa school, ito yung dahilan kung bakit naniniwala sila sa science ng climate change. So ito po ay laging para sa ating mga estudyante. So ayun lamang po, Deputy Speaker Legarda, ang ating
Tuwang-tuwa
presentation.
ako sa iyo. Alam mo, nangingilabot ako. Natutuwa ako sa iyo, sa inyo, sa DepEd, na naiiyak ako na yung aking batas na ginawa mula pa ng 2007, yung Climate Change Act, at yung aking People's Survival Fund na kaakibat noon. At yung aking mga ginawa noong 1998, bago pa kayo napanganak, nakakaiyak. Ngayon, nagkakaskade na sa LGU, sa mga binabanggit kanina ni Attorney Leslie, sa'yo bilang kabataang climate leader at DepEd Dream Service Head, at yung gulayan sa paaralan, yung paghahanda sa sakuna, yung mga reading materials, soft and hard copy na ginagawa kong painstakingly ginagawa nung ako'y senator na mga handbook ko, mina-micromanage, ako nag-edit, sumusulat. Natutuwa ako, marami ng materyales ngayon. So, I am so enthused. You know, when I started this, I was honestly a lonely voice. In the 1980s, when I used to talk about the Pasig River and our dams and the rising flood waters, 1980s in my program called Pep Talk. And then I became senator, 1998. Isa sa mga unang batas na aking sinulat, yung Ecological Solid Waste Management Law, yung paghihiwalay ng basura sa nabubulok, hindi nabubulok. At sabi ng ibang mga veteranong legislator, bakit naman ang batang babae ito, basura ang kanyang inaatupag. So, ngayon 2021, mula ng pandemya ng March 2020 at lockdown sa Pilipinas, ang kabataang gaya ni Lara, gaya ni Leslie, at gaya ninyong lahat ay ginagamit ang aking advokasya, polisiya at batas, at you're even doing better because you are, inihimay-himay nyo yung issues at nanganak na sa maraming programa. Durugid nga salamat. I'm so inspired. What I will do with you, Lara, and kasama ko si Attorney Leslie. Gusto kong magkaroon, una, I will, if you don't mind, have a copy, soft and hard copy, ng lahat ng materyales mo sa Dream Service. At if you don't mind, I will give my comments, improve on it, or even learn from you. Kasi ang aking pananaw sa global at sa national, pero now sa Antique, meron local experience. Pero kayo alam nyo alam nyo paano mag-communicate sa millennials, sa mga bata, sa DepEd, sa grade school, ganun. So, we can even give examples and we can really widen the reach and use all social media platform, but even improve the hard copy in terms of, I don't know, design scholars. So, marami. Tapos, ang ating learners ay syempre can only be as good as the teachers. Kaya, we can have a regular teacher training webinars on climate experts, advocates, scientists, gaya ng ginagawa ko sa cultural mapping with DepEd. And Secretary Biones and former Secretary Brother Armin Luiso knows this. Pinondohan ko, ina-advocate ko ang cultural mapping. This time, we can do webinars on climate change and disaster resilience. Congratulations for the work you do. I've texted Victoria Evangelista, a climate champion also, used to be with my office. She's now with the Climate Change Commission, a magna cum laude, just like Attorney Leslie. She's from UP, my alma mater. So I've asked her, I texted her here to coordinate with Lara so that we can have a copy of the output of the Environmental Education Awareness Act. Kailan ko ba ginawa yun? First or second term, I'm not sure. And you're implementing it so beautifully. So we will see what you have. I can even share some of my articles and books, and we can do more. We can do more. I can even provide you the resources needed. Kung kailangan ng budget ng iyong opisina or even elevate your office, you must have the Dream Office in all regional offices of DepEd, or every provincial DepEd supervisor or district supervisor must have the training under your Dream Office. So maraming kaya pang gawin. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Tinatag ako ng staff ko na ang daldal ko daw, 11:15 na, this is just a 1-hour show. But anong magagawa ako? This is my life. And tuwang-tuwa ako sa ginagawa ni Leslie. Good. Tuwa din ako sa gawa ni Lara. Okay, let us see now. Let us focus now on cacao. Oh, sasabihin na naman ng mga tao, oh, let's see, what did they say? Oh, yay, they told me that I attended a 2019 National Climate Change Conference by DepEd, and that is what Lara was talking about, right? Is that the climate change conference that you mentioned? Yes. Okay, so let's see what we have next. I want to see the cacao project of our youngest guest, Luis, sa Kabikulan. Ayan. Hindi ko alam kung nakalabas siya sa kanyang cacao farm. Tignan natin. Ano ang koneksyon ng cacao? Ano ang koneksyon ng pagiging chef? malaking connection. Sustainability, di ba? We grow our own food. Palagi ko pinapakita yan sa Instagram, yung aking tinatanim na gulay, ang siyang kinakain ko, isang ulam lang ako. Okay, we proceed with Luis. Thank you, Lara. Okay, now Luis.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Now, of course, I can't bring you to my farm at the moment because of the Wi-Fi, but in my presentation, I will bring you through videos that we filmed of our cocoa farm. And the thing about the Cacao Project is that we were thinking of the idea when we were hit by Super Typhoon Nokten. How can we build better disaster resiliency for farmers? And what can we do to equip them for better sustainable success? Now, of course, we've discussed this with Attorney Leslie and with Lara earlier, but the Philippines is one of the most susceptible countries to hazards brought about by climate change. And this is according to the Global Peace Index of 2019. In fact, every single year, our islands are ravaged by typhoons of increasing intensity because of warming ocean temperatures. And not even because of carbon emissions from the Philippines, but because of carbon emissions worldwide. Now, when my town was hit by Super Typhoon Nokten, I wanted to find a way to put in meaningful change. And this is when this came along. So I'm holding up a bar of chocolate. And I thought, what if we can, because, okay, if you're in the comments, put like or comment hearts and tell me if you eat chocolate or if you love chocolate. Kasi dito sa Pilipinas, ang dami nating cacao na tumutubo throughout our landscapes. And I saw that after Super Typhoon Nokten hit my town, yung cacao lang yung nakatayo na tree because it's not too tall and it's not short enough to get flooded by rainwater, and it's not too tall to get cut down by high winds. So I thought, what if we can turn our chocolate into an industry that would help save our farmers and protect them from all of these typhoons and storms? And that was how the Cacao Project was born. Now, what we do is we give farmers a training and resources they need to be better positioned for sustainable success. We work with them on regenerative agroforestry so that they understand their value to the economy and to our country. Now, how do we work? Of course, we work closely with our farmers on the ground to create economic agroforests so we can boost a green recovery for our country. Now, this is some of our impact. We work with over 200 farmers. We planted over 85,000 trees over a span of 85 hectares of land. And this has helped not just reforest unused and barren land, but equip our farmers with knowledge that they didn't have previously. And not only that, but we're also breaking down negative stigmas associated to agriculture. So of course, if you go to schools or if you, if you're at home and you're not studying well, for example, maririnig mo sa mga teachers mo or sa magulang mo na sasabihin nila sa'yo na kung hindi ka mag-aaral na mabuti, pupulutin ka sa kangkungan or mangangamote ka. And this is language that is deeply rooted in our culture that has a bias against farmers and agriculture. So we realize that agriculture is, we think of agriculture as associated to poverty and unsustainability and failure, which is problematic. Hindi to maganda para sa mga farmers natin at sa mga industries natin. So what we're trying to do is show people and yung mga kabataan ngayon that farming is cool and it's really fun and that it can be used as a means for green stewardship. So that is kind of the overview, Deputy Speaker, of what we're doing. And hopefully you can visit our farms here in Camarines Sur soon.
That's so interesting. You're so young, how did you get involved in farming? And how do you engage young people like you in doing sustainable livelihood projects in agriculture in the provinces? How do you engage them? And is it a lucrative profession or is it done as an aside project?
So to mention how I started as a chef. And of course, I love food so much and I love serving food, especially Filipino food. And that brought me to the farm to table food movement, where kung saan natin pinapakita sa mga consumers or sa mga kumakain ng mga pagkain and dishes that we serve, that this is where ingredients come from. And these are the communities and livelihoods you're supporting by buying these ingredients. Now, when I was in the culinary field, I realized that we needed to better support our farmers in produce and harvests. And that kind of catapulted me into farming my own food and creating my own farm to table kind of setups and concepts. And when I started in agriculture, of course, hindi mo iisipin na yung mga young girls like me who love lipstick and wear pink would go to a farm. Pero now, what I'm trying to do is break down those stigmas and encourage young people to realize that agriculture is lucrative and profitable, because you just need to approach it with entrepreneurial values and kind of understand the markets that we currently reside in. And not just that, but also ensure people that agriculture can be sustainable and regenerative. Now, it's actually environmental stewardship to take care of our land and soil, and it's a massive responsibility. And of course, it's not as straightforward as just planting rice on a field, but there's arts involved in agriculture. There's financing, there's economics, there's development. And there's also the sense that it's an alchemy of soil, air, and wind, and our sunlight that combines to make amazing produce. And of course, with the average age of farmers here in the Philippines at around 57 years old, we'll have a food security crisis in the next 15 years. So all of that food you enjoy will be scarce in the next 15 years kung wala mga kabataan who will intervene and do their own interventions as well in our agricultural industry.
You always mention the word, and I'm glad you do, regenerative agriculture. Please explain to us what regenerative agriculture means, paano natin ito i-connect sa sustainability, at ano rin ang ating connection, regenerative agriculture, sustainable development, climate change adaptation, and resilience. Magkakapamilya yan eh. At ano kaya ang ating Tagalog word, Filipino word, sa simpleng pamamaraan para mapaliwanag natin ang regenerative agriculture? Yan, Luis. At pwede rin ituro yan ni Lara sa DepEd. At pwede rin yan i-integrate ni Leslie sa kanyang World Bank projects. At pwede ko rin gawin yan sa aking legislation, especially because I have the Forest Garden Act pending in Congress now. Okay, Luis.
I mean, definitely. I mean, regenerative agriculture, very complex topic po yun. And I was looking into the knowledge gaps in our Philippine industry. And one of the knowledge gaps is that wala pa tayong very concise term para sa regenerative agriculture in Tagalog. Of course, we don't even have a proper word for sustainability or climate change in Tagalog. And hopefully po, that's a knowledge gap that we can fill in collaboration with Lara and Attorney earlier on, who are also trying to fill in those knowledge gaps. But regenerative agriculture itself is basically working with nature to be able to have nature-based solutions for our food systems, which means sa pagsasaka natin, we're also working to revive our forests, conserve biodiversity, restore our water sources, and create cleaner, more equitable livelihoods for our communities dito sa Pilipinas. And I think that's very important in the agricultural industry and in climate change, because the agricultural industry is known to be one of the main contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. In other words, agriculture is one of the reasons why we have a lot of warming atmospheric temperatures and, of course, typhoons that cause a lot of issues. But in the Philippines, agriculture is an amazing opportunity because napaka-close po natin sa kalikasan, and with integrated landscapes approaches and understanding and equipping farmers as well with the power to be able to restore our soils and take care of our forests and canopies, we can harness the power of forests to create good and equitable, sustainable food. So yan po yung sustainable.
That's really great. What you're saying is great, and what you're doing is even greater. I am so glad to have met you now virtually, and I feel that I find a part of me in each of you today, and I would like this collaboration to continue. Regenerative agriculture, simply put, would be applying the laws that I authored, which are already in existence. And for those watching us, baka hindi pa kayo napanganak nung ginawa ko yung batas. Ayan. Una, Clean Air Act. Pangalawa, Clean Water Act. Pangatlo, Ecological Solid Waste Management Law, yung paghihiwalay ng basura sa nabubulok, hindi nabubulok, paggagawa ng organic compost mula sa ating mga food waste, paglalaan ng bote, lata, plastic para maresikulo, at yung natitira lamang ay yung latak residual, yun lang ang kokolektahin. Ayun. Tapos yung Renewable Energy Law at yung Environment Education Awareness Act at yung INIPAS, Environment National Integrated Protected Areas. You're in San Fernando? Is it San Fernando, Camarines Sur, Luis? Are you in San Fernando?
Yes, San Fernando and Camarines Sur.
Wow! Wait, Attorney Yoli Doblon, the 40 years head of the Senate Budget Office that I worked with when I was chairman of Finances Senator, is from San Fernando. Amazing! I would like her to see you. She's retired from the Senate. She's my sparring partner in doing the budget. Okay, I put 50, Leslie, I would like to share with you, I put 50 special provisions in the GAA on climate and DRR and agriculture. And people found me, what is she like that? The chairman of finance is talking about DRR. Do you know that I even legislated in our annual budget to count the trees in every state, university, and college, to document biodiversity in every SUC, and to have triangulated natural storm buffers and wind buffers in coastal areas where there are coconuts, because the triangulation way is a natural way of buffers. Ganun kadetalya. They said, is she a chairman of finance or is she a climate activist? Anyway, so the things I did, and I hope and I know that Senator Sani Angara, who inherited my seat and is doing a great job as chairman of finance, iniwan ko sa Senate LBRMO yung aking more than 50 special additional provisions. Hindi to yung insertion na sinasabi nila na masama, hindi. Ito yung insertion sa mga provision ng budget para ipatupad, para yung national budget of 4 trillion more ay climate budget. Kasi, gaya ng sinabi nyo, hindi dapat Climate Change Commission na maliit na ahensya lang gumagawa ng DRR at climate. Hindi dapat yung DRR office lamang ni Lara ang ginagawa ng DepEd. Hindi dapat isang batang millennial sa Kamsur, sa San Fernando ang gumagawang Cacao Project. Kailangan pangkalahatan, whole of government, whole of society approach. Kaya yung ating clean air, clean water, solid waste management, RE law, PSF, INIPAS, etc., ay integrated sa buong bansa, sa buong budget, sa COVID recovery, ayon nga kay Attorney Leslie, ay akma sa ating climate pathways. 11:30 na, inaawat na ako, kanina pang text ang aking staff dahil overtime ako. Bakit? Libre naman ang airtime, ha? We should do a part 2 of this. I am so grateful to Attorney Leslie Cordero, our World Bank Senior Disaster Risk Specialist. I'm so grateful also to Lara, who is heading our DepEd implementation of climate resilience among our youths and learners. And let's have the webinar with teacher training. I will do it willingly for free. We can do it perhaps by island groups, by regions, and I can make my lectures very simple, understandable. We can even have translators in the different languages and dialects. And I'm grateful, of course, to Luis. I'd like to learn more about cacao and be, well, I'm a farmer because I grow my own food, but not full time because, as you know, I'm a lawmaker. But thank you to each of you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to our partners, the Climate Change Commission, the Institute of Climate and Sustainable Cities, Climate Reality Philippines, and the DepEd and the Department of Agriculture, ATI. We're giving away starter kits. So they will flash those who won. The first Facebook viewers na babae who won, who got free coffee. 1 minute, I'll show you. This is the coffee I grow. It was my grandmother who planted the coffee trees, Robusta, and I harvested it the slow way. Alam mo ko, slow food, slow living, sustainability, but I'm very fast. These are the winners. I will give one each to our guests, but I will give 5 Robusta Coffee Limited Edition. Binibenta ito sa Eco Store, only 25 pieces. But I'm giving away my share from my own harvest to Leslie, Sarah, Lara, and Luis. And 5 na nakikinig sa Facebook. It is Victoria of Climate Change who will determine that. And of course, the starter kits. And I wish this could go on and on. We have our responsibilities, and I congratulate all of you for the great work you're doing. I am no longer alone as I was in the 1990s. I'm so glad to be to share the platform, to share my advocacy. You are doing great work, Leslie, Lara, Luis, and many more in your teams, in your group. I will be in touch with you. Keep up the good work. Sa akin mga palangga, sa Antique, sa Panay, durogin ka salamat, si Inday Loren, palangga ko kamo. Thank you so much. I think they're showing more photos after this, and the contact information. Yung gustong magtanim ng kakao, yung gustong matuto kay Attorney Cordero, yung gusto pang matuto ng mga sa PTA Association sa DepEd, ayan, kay Lara. So the contact info will be there. Please spread this video, which is live now, for those who are not available in your respective Facebook pages. I hope the issue of climate, NDRR, and resilience will go viral. When will that happen? I want to meet more and to be more with people like you, young women like you. I wish I could hug you. So a virtual embrace, and thank you so much. Let us continue doing our COVID recovery attuned to the climate pathway during this pandemic. Keep safe. God bless. Thank you for your time, for your effort, your expertise, and your wisdom.
Salamat, Senator Loren. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are photos in Ondoy. Okay, you can continue with the photos.